This podcast is sponsored by Insurity. Insurity are a national specialist insurance broker focusing on property insurance within the leasehold and private rental sectors. Their clients are central to all that they do, and they strive to raise awareness of changing insurance needs within the property sector. As partner to the Property Institute, Insurity continue to work closely with the Property Institute and its members in order to drive the property industry forward.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond Four Walls, the podcast where we explore the world of property management, well-being and everything in between. Today, I'm joined by Debbie Ranger, an experienced property manager who has been in the industry for over a decade. Debbie joined JCF Property Management in September 2020 and has since earned her MTPI qualifications, and she's no stranger to the challenges of our sector, managing difficult clients to dealing with the realities of lone working. Outside of work, she has a passion for cooking and dedicates her time to fundraising for the Isabel Hospice, a cause close to her heart. And in this episode, we'll dive into Debbie's journey in property management, her insights on the industry, and the lessons she's learned along the way. And we'll also discuss the unique challenges of lone working and how she personally navigates them. So, Debbie, thank you very much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me today on this beautiful morning.
It is it's a lovely blue sky out there.
Feels like spring is finally touching us.
Yeah, let's not jinx it. Hopefully when this podcast comes out, it'll be raining or something. That'd be just our luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
But can you just start by telling me what initially drew you to a career in property management? Was it by accident, like everybody else falls into it?
Yeah, absolutely. I've mainly in my career worked in mortgages, loans and insurance. And I went through a period of setting up my own business in medical reporting, so to speak. That didn't end up so well. So I kind of fell into this by accident. My other half at the time knew somebody that worked for RMG, and he said to my partner at the time, I think she'd be really good at it. She's tenacious. She knows what she wants. She knows how to deal with people. And I just think she would be really good at it, essentially. So 10 years, 11 years later, here I am still in the industry.
And you still enjoy it? And is that tenacity paid off?
Tenacity has paid off. I do still love it. It is possibly one of the most challenging careers that you can have. And I think it's fair to say that in the industry, we do say that you've got to be made of a different kind of stuff to do this job. You know, we're dealing with people's homes and that's their assets. So we're always going to be on the other end of somebody that is unhappy with something that we're doing, not necessarily agreeing with our processes and procedures on how we get things fixed or deal with major works projects or health and safety. So I think for me, it's the challenge of every day is different in this job. And that's what I love about it, is that no day is the same whatsoever.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I mean, yes, the most challenging job I've ever done. And I've been doing it now for nearly 20 years. So it's a little bit mental. But at the same time, I don't think I could certainly now, having done this job for so long, sit at a desk every day and do the same thing every day.
Oh,
I think I would just be bored out of my mind, and it would really affect my mental health, actually, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, actually. Getting out and about makes, the day different. Like you, I wouldn't want to sit at a desk all day and not be seen by residents, not be seen by leaseholders. So, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It definitely would. I would struggle with a 9 to 5 behind a desk.
But how do you think the industry has changed since you started, so over a decade ago? And it has, we're talking post-Grenfell, pre-Grenfell, all that kind of stuff. I mean, how do you think it's changed for you?
I feel that there's more pressure on us as property managers now, more so than ever with the Grenfell inquiry. We are very much subjected to now making sure that health and safety is our priority. Not that it wasn't, but it's become more of a priority, I would say, now than it's ever been because of what we've got to look at, especially with the 18-metre buildings. Anyone that's got a portfolio that's got more than one 18-metre building on it is subject to such scrutiny. It's just ridiculous. And I feel that us as property managers really take that to heart because, if we get that wrong and if we don't comply, it comes down on us. And I know it doesn't come down on us technically, but it does. And I think that's always the worry in the back of somebody's mind these days, that have we done that right? Have we done it is probably the better question. And if we have done it, are we going to be able to remediate it in a way that isn't going to cost leaseholders too much money? And I think, that is the concern of every property manager, is trying to keep a service charge down, but making sure we're doing the right thing, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's the change is for me around the expectation of what property
Yeah.
managers can do. I mean, we've always done a lot. I mean, the list is endless. But funnily enough, well, it's not funny, but there was a fire at a block of flats that I used to manage before I started the business. And I saw it in the press, and my first thought was, oh my gosh, firstly, is everybody okay? And they were, and it actually turned out to be arson. My second thought, I guess, then was that poor property manager. Can you imagine the pressure on their shoulders to make sure, have I done, have I done, have I done, have I done, like all the way through that tick box process. And, the fire didn't spread, the compartmentation worked, everything was as it should be. There's water damage, but there's no fire damage.
Yeah.
No lives were lost, so it did its job. But the questions that are going to come into that property manager and how bombarded that property manager is going to be, when I would imagine it's not the only block on that property manager's portfolio. I think for
Absolutely.
me, the biggest thing that has changed over the years is the expectation
Yeah, I
of
would
what we
definitely
do.
agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. And as someone that has unfortunately also had to deal with a fire on one of her blocks, I remember getting that call, and actually, funny enough, it was a Monday morning, and I was just sat casually in my tracksuit bottom, so to speak, working from home. And to get that call, and I live in Hertfordshire, so the fire was in Kensington. And it's like you've just got to drop everything that you're doing and get over to where that site is and make sure, as you say, that firstly, that no lives have been lost. Secondly, the what afters, because it's
Yeah.
all well and good dealing with it then, but it is, as you say, the questions that then arise from that afterwards.
Mhm.
Did we do something wrong? Could we have done something differently? Was it well communicated with leaseholders? Have we communicated well with insurance companies? So there's, like you say, there is all of those follow-on questions coming from, a major incident. So it happens on the day, but the aftermath is weeks and months
Mm.
afterwards. So
Yeah.
I would agree with you, definitely. I think the expectation on us has certainly risen. And I think that comes with a whole new level of stress for us all as well. It's always been, as you say, a hard job, but I think these days it becomes harder and harder every day.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. And it's also, as we said earlier, it's a really positive job because you're not doing the same thing every day. So
Yeah,
you get
absolutely.
that, and it keeps the passion alive in a way about, every day is not going to be a slog because tomorrow is going to be different.
Yeah,
You can kind of, in a way, put it to bed every day, can't you?
yeah,
In
absolutely.
some ways. But can you tell me the biggest lesson you think you've learned in the last 10 years?
Oh, that's a good question.
Hmm.
The biggest lesson that I've learned in the last 10 years, never take anything for granted,
Good one.
ever, ever, ever. You're only as good as the day before, in my opinion, because everything is always changing. I think that what I know now against what I knew 10 years ago is very different as well. And I think for me, the lesson that I've learned is that I'm actually stronger and tougher than I think as well. And I think that's really important to get across, is that we are human beings at the end of the day.
Mm.
And we do take, I'd say probably on a daily, weekly basis, a level of abuse that maybe is not acceptable, I think, potentially. But I think it's how you deal with that as a property manager. And if you know your regulations, if you know your health and safety, if you are on point in doing your job, then I think that makes your day a lot easier.
Yeah, and obviously
Definitely.
the qualifications that you've gone through as well, that it helps from the knowledge base, but having the confidence to relay that as well, it's we've said it's really challenging. But going back to the abuse side of things leads me quite nicely onto my next question, actually, about well-being and how you handle stress in your role. Any tips?
Try not to get stressed. I don't know if that's, no, it's not a
No.
thing. I think the most important thing that I've definitely learned, and I'd say this is probably more relevant in the last year, is that you definitely have to take time for yourselves. You have to find the thing that makes you happy and make sure that you're incorporating that into your day. It's not working 12-hour days. It's, finishing at 6 o'clock where you can, obviously meeting, evening meetings
Mm,
allowing. But I think to take that time for you is probably the biggest lesson I've learned in the last 12 months. It's
mm.
it's been a challenging 12 months for me. Going into being a senior property manager to an associate director comes with a whole new level of stress.
Certainly does.
But yeah, I think, yeah, for me, it is just taking that time and making sure that I am putting myself first where I can.
What's the most difficult situation do you think you've had to deal with in your role? Obviously, don't name names or anything like that, but is there something that springs to mind and how you dealt with it, obviously?
There is, but I don't think I should answer it, I've got to be honest.
Okay, no, that's fine. So what advice would you give to property managers who are in the industry right now and they're struggling with their mental health, mental well-being? I know you said sort of take time for yourself, finish on time. Is there any advice particularly that you can, if property managers are struggling with workload or they're struggling with something, a difficult client or something like that, have you got any advice on that?
I would say communication is key. I think you should be talking to your peers. I think that you should be talking to your team leaders. If you're having a bad day, we're all in this together at the end of the day. Whilst that might be your site, it might be your leaseholder. It is still an industry where you're very much part of a team. And if you're
Mm,
having that bad day, I think one of the things that I probably didn't do in some of my most stressful days was communicate that I was having a really bad day. And actually, if I'd spoken it through with somebody else, we could have maybe resolved the problem together. We could have found a way to communicate back to each other that it's okay, this is just a bad day. Tomorrow
mm,
may be better. You're not going to get the same leaseholders screaming and shouting. Well, you like to hope you're not going to get the same
mm.
leaseholders screaming and shouting at
Yeah.
you. We know that doesn't always happen, but I think for the newbies coming into this industry, I think that the thing that we can do best as experienced property managers is just communicate that it does get better.
Mm,
There is a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And if you are feeling stressed or down or upset, that you need to communicate that, because if you bottle it up inside, it just manifests and manifests and manifests. And
mm.
eventually you will explode, and you'll probably explode at the wrong person.
Yes. You don't want to get snappy at your work colleagues or anything like that, do you? But we are in a very high pressured environment and as you say, we're getting people shouting at us all the time. At times when you've faced abuse or aggression or anything like that from clients, have you ever had to reach out to anyone to support you, or have you just dealt with it, taken it on the chin and dealt with it yourself?
I would love to say that JCF is actually really good at supporting. So senior management definitely are very good at supporting us in times where we are dealing with very challenging and abusive leaseholders. We support each other through these times, but also in terms of a process, we're very good at looking and issuing out the unreasonable behaviour
Mm,
policy that TPI have put together for us. Our senior management team won't allow us to be abused in such a way that is continual. They see the detriment it has on us as property managers. So, yeah, for me, I think, JCF are very good at dealing with those kind of leaseholders and putting them into a place where we can still do our job and communicating in a way that isn't going to hurt us or hinder us, so to speak.
yeah, that's great because if you're in an environment that can be stressful like we do, then you're in a toxic workplace where you're not getting that support. It must be debilitating for that person to have to go into work every day or not. High absenteeism and stress-related illnesses and all that kind of stuff. It must be absolutely awful. So it's great to hear that JCF are, they're top notch when it comes to supporting
Oh,
you.
Honestly, absolutely amazing. And I think JCF, as I said sort of previously, we are one big team. You know, we are one of like small, medium company, but we sit in close quarters together. So, you know, if you can always tell when someone's having a bad day. And I really try, especially with my team, I really try and just say, right, come on, let's go and grab a coffee. Let's go and grab a walk. Let's just walk away for a desk for a couple of minutes.
Mm.
Let's debrief. Let's find out what's going on. And again, you know, our senior management team is also really good at looking after us to do that. And I've been with JCF 5 years this year. I've never stayed somewhere so long. And I think
Yeah.
that for me is testament on what a good company JCF is to work for.
And I think if you've got a company that when those scenarios turn up that you just need to pause, put down the laptop before you throw it out the window maybe, and just step away, step outside, go and make a cup of tea, pop to the loo, have a cry if you need to,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we've all done it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but just to have that breathing space, and if you've got a manager that's breathing down your neck, it must be absolute. Well, I know that it's awful, and I'll share that when I mean before my property management days, so that feels like 100 years ago. And I was working for a company, just a little admin person, nothing particularly,
Mm.
stressful or anything like that. And but I was having a bad day. My granddad had gone in for a triple heart bypass, and I was very close to my granddad. He's passed away now, but not through that.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just having a really bad day, and somebody said to me, "Oh, do you want a cup of tea?" And I said, "You know what? I'll just step away from my desk a minute, and I'll come with you to make it." And my manager went absolutely ballistic at me that, how dare you basically move without
Yeah.
my permission? And
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to take that step back. I mean, I'm talking 20 odd years, like yeah, more than 20 years ago now. So. Um, but yeah, the workplace culture has changed now,
Yeah,
thankfully.
absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, I'd hate for a newbie property manager who was, 19, 20, which is what I was at the time, to, come into an environment that is stressful and then have a workplace culture that just is just as bad, really, and no support. It must it's awful just to think about what I went through, let alone, now.
Yeah,
So.
I absolutely agree with that. You know, I think if you are waking up every day and dreading going to work anyway, then going into an office that, as you say, has that toxic work culture, what's the point in getting up on that day? You know, why
Mm,
why are you going to go into work? And I like to think that, especially, I've had a team now for just under a year. And I want those guys to feel like they want to come into work every
mm,
day. You know,
yeah.
we've got a little Teams chat, and even if I'm working from home on a Monday, I'll always be like, "Good morning."
Mm.
Just giving that positivity to start the day. I think is really important to people that are younger coming into this industry because, as you say, it's a toughie,
It
and
is
someone's got to do it.
absolutely, and we're stuck with it because we've been doing it for too long now, and we can't do anything else.
Oh, tell me about it.
But if you don't mind us moving on to lone working, you had a quite serious incident happen to you. Are
I
you, are
did.
you happy to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I can't remember when it was now. Last year, maybe beginning of last year.
Mm,
I'd just come off a site visit, and I was stood at the local tube station, just going down to go and get the tube. I was stood outside. I was on one of my phones. I think it was my personal phone at the time, but I had my work mobile in my pocket, and I was just standing at the tube station, just getting ready to go down into the tube station when unfortunately I was mugged. So I had my work phone taken out of my pocket and I was pushed to the ground. Luckily I wasn't seriously injured, but it was quite a fright. I'd scraped
mm,
myself. But yeah, so it was quite terrifying at the time. And it just reminded me that we are out doing our jobs. And whilst that wasn't actually on the site, we are still quite vulnerable to those experiences happening on site as well.
yeah,
You hear of it, in the industry where people are abused on site, verbally. I'm not saying physically necessarily, but to have something like that happen to you as a lone worker is immensely scary. And for me, it's definitely given me not a wake-up call, but I make sure that I've got, unless I'm actually using one of my devices, I make sure they're tucked away in my backpack, that it can't be got to. I'm not seen with, 3 or 4 devices on site, because I just look like I'm a target for someone to try and take those. It was quite scary. And it took me a while to actually go back to that site, because I guess there was a little bit of a level of PTSD involved there, because it was just like, oh God, I've got to go back to that tube station. Oh God, I've got to stand at the top of that tube station again. And eventually I got over it, but it still makes me quite anxious just thinking about it.
First of all, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I mean, that's
Thank
absolutely
you.
horrific. But when we talk about lone working, as you say, it's not just about when you're on site. You're a lone worker traveling to that site as well
Yeah,
and traveling
absolutely.
back from that site. And
Hmm.
it might not have even been a client or a leaseholder or, whoever
Yeah,
that did that to you. It was just a random person. But there is so much to think about around lone working. And as you know, it's something that I strongly advocate for, that, everybody takes care of their property managers for, our physical and emotional safety. So what policies, can't speak, and precautions do you put in place now at JCF in order to stop that from happening again, hopefully?
so we're very much involved with a charity very close to your heart as well, the Holly Gazard Trust.
Mm.
We've got our Women's Safety Charter
Oh,
Day
amazing. Is that this week?
with,
Brilliant.
yes, kind of highlighted to us things that we did need to put in place. So we've now, everybody on their phones has got the Holly Gazard app. We talk about lone working when we are doing our inductions. We've also got a bit of a check-in system, and whilst it's not a check-in system, because I want to see where you are every minute of every day,
Mm.
it's just for me to know that what site you're on and where you are at a particular time of day. So if I can't get hold of you and you've been to site, and I still can't get hold of you for hours after, is there a problem?
Yeah.
But we are definitely looking at our policies in terms of loan working, and we are going to be supported with Holly Gazard Trust with that, definitely.
It's amazing, and what they do, and certainly with the Women's Safety Charter, and the policies that they can assist you with, it's brilliant what they've put together. But yeah, I think it's a case of going back to the check-in system, that thing of checking up on you. We need to get that out of people's heads that we are checking up on them because we want to know where they
Yeah,
are every second of the day.
absolutely.
This is about your safety and
Yeah.
making sure that, because ultimately, it's like when you send your kid to school, you expect to know that they're safe, and it's the same principle with your property managers. I couldn't give a damn if you wanted to walk your dog at 11 o'clock,
Yeah,
because as long as the job's done, it does, things like that don't bother me.
absolutely.
But what bothers me is knowing that you're safe
Yeah.
whilst you're walking your dog for one, but also, whilst you're on site doing the job that, I'm employing you to do. I want to make sure that you're okay. And that comes from a caring side of me, not just my employee responsibility. And, I think if we need to get people out of this, well, why are you checking up on me?
Yeah, I would
It's
100% agree with that. And the way that I put it to my team is like you say, quite frankly, I don't give a damn where you are. My concern comes out of a place of love and caringness as a human
mm,
being. I
yeah.
just want to know you're safe. And
Mm,
because of what happened to me happened, I think that maybe I'm probably more sensitive to it, because I'm like, well, this did happen to me. So the reason I'm asking you where you are is not because I want to know where you are because I don't think you're working, because I care. And I
yeah.
just want to make sure that you're going to go home tonight to your family safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the app, it's great that you've got the app on everybody's phones, because
Mm,
a lot of the time instances might happen that you don't have on email, or you don't have on text message,
yeah,
from going back to sort of the abusive side of things that we have to deal with. And you can literally just log it like a little message in your phone, on the app.
it's a
And that's
great
there
app.
then. That's evidence. And if something, happens down the line, or you have to, I've had to get police involved with a leaseholder before because, this guy was absolutely bonkers, and because I had all of that evidence, it was all there ready and waiting. I didn't have to trawl through emails and that sort of thing. Every time he did something whilst I was on site, I just literally put it straight in the app.
Yeah, and I think what came out of, unfortunately, my incidents was sort of a bit of an upgrade on their app with the remote button.
Hmm.
I was quite heavily involved in getting that up and running as part of Holly Gazard. Obviously, they brought it to the table, but
Yeah.
I think that button for me, I carry it with me everywhere. Weirdly enough, even when I'm going out on a night out now, it may just be in my, be in my handbag.
Yeah.
Because whilst it isn't necessarily a work-related evening, there are still some lunatics in this world, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
And I
And
think,
and to be fair, going back to if somebody was trying to mug you, they wouldn't automatically think that this button was worth anything.
absolutely,
So you can have that in your hand rather than having your phone in your hand.
exactly.
So yeah, it really is a perfect solution. So yeah,
Yeah, I
well
absolutely
done
agree.
for championing it. I'm really pleased for you all, and
Oh,
thank you for
thank
supporting the
you.
trust as well.
Oh, absolutely. Nick and I go way back because actually I knew Nick before
Mm,
I was in property management. So to have that full circle moment with him has been
yeah,
really, really lovely. And, unfortunately, what happened to him and his family is just horrific. You never want anyone to go through that.
no,
So I think kudos to everything that he does and championing that going forward, definitely. And
yeah.
your involvement as well, you're very close to it. So I know that you champion it throughout the industry as well. And, it's really
Mm.
nice to see that, there are a few of us that are on the same page, so to speak.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think as soon as I heard about it, because I randomly saw, yeah, solicitors that I work with, and I think the trust were their charity of the year, and I saw that they'd posted something on LinkedIn, and it had mentioned something about the app, and I was like, oh my God, that app would be amazing for our
Yeah,
industry.
yeah,
Literally had a
absolutely.
coffee with Nick, and the rest is history. So I was pulled in, but no, it is perfect for our industry, and we yeah, it's great that it's being utilized. I'm really proud of it. So
Yeah, same.
yeah. So going on to misconceptions. Now, I tend to ask everybody this question: common
Okay.
misconceptions that people have of our industry. Any thoughts on that?
That we make all the decisions, that
Ah,
we, the
yes,
property
good one.
managers, make all the decisions. I think I think that's possibly the biggest misconception in my mind because whilst we act as the middle person, between the management company and us as the managing agent, ultimately it is the management company or the directors of that management company that are making those decisions. We're just here offering advice, giving regulation, making sure that steps are being taken to rectify issues on site, to ensure health and safety compliance. But ultimately, we're not the persons or we're not the people, so to speak, that says, okay, you do that. It
Mm,
is the directors of the management company or the RMC or the right to manage, whatever it is. I think that that is the biggest misconception by leaseholders that us as managing agents are making all those decisions all of the time.
yeah. Or we write the legislation.
Yeah, oh, God, that is oh my God, the amount of times I hear that is like, well, you must have written that. No, please go and see the Landlord and Tenant Act 1985. I was
Yeah.
5 years old when that was
I was going
written,
to say I
so
was two. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
know
not
I'm
something.
clever, but come on.
Yeah,
Two.
absolutely. I've not just pulled that out of thin air. I can direct you to where that needs to be, how it came
Yeah.
about, and give you the background of it if you really need that in your life. But yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, crazy. And if you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be?
Oh, God, that's a really good question. What would I change? God, I'll tell you what, Jodie, you've really got me thinking now. What would I change about the industry? I would love to change leaseholders' thoughts around us. Very simple. We are human beings. We are the same person as you. We own our own homes. We rent our own homes. And I'd just like leaseholders maybe just to sort of take a step back and whilst they're directing all their anger at us and being abusive and swearing down phones or on emails, remember that we are also human beings.
Yeah, and some of us, I mean, I'm not, but some of us may also be leaseholders.
Yeah,
So we know the challenges as well as, having to be on the managing agent side. Some
yeah,
people also live in a flat and
yeah,
understand, that they have to comply and all that kind of stuff. And I think, for me, I really wish people would read their lease before they buy.
Oh my
And
God.
I know, and I keep banging the drum about it. And, this goes all the way back to estate agents,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I've got nothing against estate agents. I've got friends that are estate agents,
Yeah,
and I think they do a wonderful job and they're just, they're up against it as well as we are. Um, but get that information to the client before they make a decision.
yeah,
Because, if poor Mrs. Smith is buying a flat, and she wants to bring a 20-year-old dog, and then suddenly she gets there and 20-year-old dog isn't allowed to stay, she's not going to part with that 20-year-old dog, is she? And then you're just going to upset everybody along the way. So just get that information out as soon as possible. Because, I had a look through Rightmove randomly the other day just to see
mm,
on that the information that goes onto Rightmove if you're buying a flat. And
yeah.
it's literally,
It's
sometimes the service
minimal.
charge wasn't even on there.
Yeah, it's very minimal, isn't it?
There may have been the lease term, but nothing about ground rent, nothing about terms and conditions, nothing about, well, lease terms,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And you just think it's so basic in a way just to get that information out there, and it would give people more of an informed decision because by the time it gets to us, it's too late.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, absolutely. And I think, if there was a way that we could change an industry standard in, if I'm going to be honest, I don't know who governs estate agents, but, if that could be something that is compulsory given to a potential buyer, I think, as you quite rightly say, it would cut a lot of the aggro that we do get
Mm,
because you are upsetting people when you say, I'm going to take your dog away after 20 years.
mm,
It's not necessarily their fault. And I come up this against with solicitors as well, where they've after purchase, after it's all completed, you've got somebody coming to me going, "Oh, can I have a copy of my lease?" I'm like, "Why wasn't that given to you
yeah,
at the time of completion?" Like, really?
yeah.
So yeah, I'd agree with that definitely.
Yeah, it is a hard one and something I will keep banging the drum about. People are just going to get so fed up with me, aren't they?
Listen, I'll come and help you
Whinging all
bang
the
that
way.
drum. I'm all right
Oh,
with that. I'll
amazing.
come. Yeah, I'll join that team. I'm here for it,
Let's do it.
definitely.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
let's take over the world.
Absolutely. But a bit about you in that respect then. You do fundraising for Isabel Hospice.
I
What
do.
inspired you to do that?
Oh, my lovely mum. Yeah, we lost mum, God, 20 years ago. She was diagnosed with terminal cancer. It was quite, oh, try not to get emotional talking about
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry.
No, you're all right, you're fine. So mum was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and from diagnosis to death was a very short period of time. It was 6 months.
Right.
Unfortunately, treatment really wasn't an option for her,
Hmm.
and the Isabel Hospice is a local palliative care in East Herts, and Mum was moved there and spent her last days enjoying what can only be described as a home away from home. And it's not just about the patient, it is about their relatives as well. So me and my brother, my dad, her brother and sister, always making sure that we were looked after as well as her, and the care that they gave her in her final days was just, you just can't ask for anything more.
Mm.
It's not just a robotic service, it's a really loving, kind service. So mum asked us to continue to fundraise after she'd passed, and me and my brother have done various fundraising activities for the Isabel Hospice, from running marathons to chucking
Wow.
ourselves out of planes, to climbing Mont Blanc. And funny enough, this year I'm actually undertaking London to Brighton on the bike for the Isabel Hospice.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, send me the link and I'll sponsor
yeah.
you and I'll put it in the show notes for other people to sponsor you.
Oh, that would be amazing. Thank you very much. Yeah, it'll always be a cause close to my heart. I lost Dad 5 years ago to
Mm.
cancer also, and whilst he wasn't in the Isabel Hospice, he said it's oh, sorry. It's people like the Isabel Hospice that allow people to die
With
gracefully
with dignity, yeah.
and dignity. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I completely understand where you're coming from. My grandmother passed away from dementia in August, and I don't th thank you. It was a 10-year battle, and she was incredible throughout. She really was. And in the last in the last few weeks, as you say, that the care that, they looked after us as well. They didn't have to,
Yeah,
she was in a care home, she wasn't in a hospice, but, they didn't have to come in and give us meals and constantly supplying cups of tea and biscuits and checking that we were all right. They were there to look after her, but they actually looked after all of us, well, me and my
yeah.
mum. And like when my nan's sisters were coming in, they were and then they made her a beautiful birthday cake and stuff. And like she was trying to blow out the
Oh,
candles. We were all trying to help her blow out the candles.
oh,
But as you say, they
really?
don't have to do things like that. And they do it because they care. And, that it was really how they looked after her. It brings tears to my eyes now, just thinking about it. So yeah, I completely
Yeah.
get where you're coming from.
And it's the aftercare as well, because it doesn't just stop at the
Mm,
date of death. They were very good because I was 27 at the time when we lost mum.
wow.
My brother was 25. So the level of care that we got afterwards as well was, just a phone call weekly. Are you guys okay?
Oh,
Do
that's
you want to come
nice.
and see our bereavement team? Do you want to see our bereavement
Mm,
counsellor? And for me, that resonated so much was that it wasn't just up until that point, it was
mm,
after that point as well. So yeah, it will always be a cause very close to my heart,
mm.
definitely.
Well, definitely send me that link and I'd love to sponsor you. So,
Lovely. Thank you very
yeah.
much. I've got to
No,
make
no
it
problem.
yet.
Well, when you've got it, let me know.
It's a long,
Um,
it's a
you
long
know,
old ride, I tell you.
yeah, you'll be great. You'll be great. And it'll be in your mind as well. Your mum will be on your mind the whole time. So,
Yeah,
you'll be great.
absolutely.
But anyway, to stop us both from crying,
Yeah,
um,
please.
what's next for you in your career or personal life, whatever you'd like to share?
Like I say, I was very fortunate to become an associate director last year. And for me, it really is now, I'd like to see myself going to head of property management. And I would like to be able to make a change in our industry. I'm not sure what that change is yet, but I'd like to go into my next role knowing that I can make a change to somebody's life in that working environment, so to speak, whether that's a process, whether that's a procedure, whether it is, as we've talked about, lone working, making it safer for us to go out and do our
Mm,
jobs, just to have something more than just being head of property management, which is obviously great within itself. But, I want to make a change in the industry and
mm.
just make things better for us, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds incredible. And if there's anything I can do to help along the way, or we can team up with stuff and do stuff, then that would
Yeah, I
be
would
great
love that,
too.
Jodie, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to add before we?
No, I don't think so. I think all I'd say is we know that this job is a hard job. I think it's really important to make sure that you look after yourselves. I think it's important that you talk to your team members. I think it's important that you reach out to your peers because it is a tough job and some days can be very, very challenging. But also know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and we're all going through this together.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm not sure about you, but if anybody is struggling, and they want to reach out to me on LinkedIn
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
through this platform or whatever, I'm certainly always here to talk if anybody needs anything, and I'm sure you
Yeah,
are
me
too.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to talk, as most of my colleagues will tell you.
Well, you've been great on the podcast,
Oh,
so
thanks.
so no, you've been great. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you, my love. I've really appreciated it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my latest podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. The links are in the show notes. Or you can contact me on jodie@jodiefraser.com. For more content and updates, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favourite platforms. Thank you once again for listening. Until next time, take care.